May I get in, sir?
Please come. Raj Krishna,
Yes, sir.
please come.
Good morning, sir.
Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So, Raj, tell us about yourself, your academic qualifications, your work experience, if you have any, and your main hobbies.
I am Raj Krishna. I was born in Patna, Bihar, and I have done my secondary schooling from DAV Public School, Dehradun, and senior secondary schooling from Delhi Public School, Bokaro, Steel City. I have done my Bachelor of Technology in Chemical Engineering from IIT Guwahati in 2018. So I have no work experience, but my other passions are b-boying and podcasting and developing self-utility web applications.
So, Raj, you are from Bihar and you have spent a lot of time in Jharkhand also.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me, after these two states were separated,
Yes, sir.
and since then, which state do you think, in terms of social indicators, health and education, have done better than the other one? And if you can also mention something about both the states.
Yes, sir. So the bifurcation of Bihar and Jharkhand was done on 15th November 2000. And after that, at present scenario, so Bihar outperforms Jharkhand in terms of the social indicators because Jharkhand fares the poorest in terms of malnutrition and the education parameters are also better in Bihar right now. The literacy rate of Bihar is 64%, whereas that of Jharkhand is 61%. Apart from literacy, the indicators such as infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate are also more favorable for Bihar. But both the states are below the national average and both have a long way to go ahead.
Good. Now, tell me the present state of economy
Yes.
of India. Now, you think that India is passing through a financial distress? If yes, give some indicators to prove that. And if you think that it is not, then also you justify why it is not.
So the current state of Indian economy, it is filled with a lot of potential in future, but at the present time, it is going under some stress. Our GDP is around $2.97 trillion, and we are the sixth largest economy in the world. But sir, in the last 2 months, India has seen a withdrawal of foreign portfolio investors of around 20%, and it has led to a fall in the Sensex and Nifty indicators. The coal prices and our energy security is also under some threat because of the Russia-Ukraine war and the disruption of global supply chain. Many states in India recently faced power shortages because of mismanagement of coal. And the market is also hitting down every new day. So there are some stress, but India can easily recover from this shock as it has done previously as well. The government is taking steps in terms of increasing the self-sufficiency of Indian economy by running schemes such as production-linked incentive schemes and also focusing on new age technologies like quantum communications and electric vehicles. So the future is bright for India, especially in terms of economic development.
So, Raj, I agree with you. Future is bright. It was always bright earlier also, but it is basically the continuation of the war, which has brought this distress. Because we
Yes.
had COVID, we had already, overcome that crisis, and you never know how long the war will end, how
Yes.
will last. Now, in the meantime, China has accused the United States that after provoking and inflicting a kind of war in Europe, now they are looking at the Indo-Pacific zone and provoking the countries to have a similar conflict. And China has said that it is US which is triggering everything. What do you have to say? And what is India's interest in joining the Quad when all other countries are away from China and we are the only country we are bordering. So how do you think that, are we getting into the trap of the United States by entering into Quad?
So in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, the role of US cannot be downplayed, as the NATO membership and the decline of giving written guarantee to Russia, these were some acts done by the US only. So it has some role in the ongoing war. But the accusations of China that US is doing something similar on the Indo-Pacific region, that cannot be said as true, because there have been instances of Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific Ocean, and there have been also denial of freedom of navigation and following the rule
But
of
Raj,
law.
understood. In fact, all that is happening, Quad and everything, and US's provocation is subsequent to what China was doing.
Yes.
But isn't it possible that there could be a dialogue with China when every country is, insisting on having a dialogue? So why can't China be involved in a dialogue at all the level and see that China retracts from what it has been doing in the past 2-3 years?
The hostilities between China and West, they have grown in the recent years in terms of protectionism or trade war or even the currency war. So it has been tough for both the parties to sit on a table and resolve their disputes.
But
as
again,
of
I'm
now.
interrupting.
Yes.
Mr. Biden and the president of China both had a virtual meeting just about a fortnight or 20 days back.
Yes, sir. So, but the resolution of the disputes in the South China
So that
Sea,
means one should not go for dialogue and the only thing is to provoke each other. Is that it?
definitely not, sir.
Okay.
Both need to be run parallelly. The dialogue and deliberations are also one mechanism to resolve disputes,
Alright.
and they should be taken forward. But along with that, our capacity also needs to be built in case there is some exigency or there is some aggression on the opponent side. So for that, we are preparing. The international relation is currently run by the principle: prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Good. So Raj, I pass on to our esteemed member, please.
Raj, you come from Patna, and to be more precise, Lohiyanagar,
Yes.
right? Somewhere close to you were born there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why it is named Lohiyanagar? Who's any reason for this?
So out of due respect for Sri Ram Manohar Lohiya's contribution in the Indian independence struggle and also the politics in India, because of that, it has been named after Sri Ram Manohar Lohiya. He was the founder of Congress Socialist Party, and he also founded Praja Socialist Party after independence and formed the first non-Congress government in Uttar Pradesh in 1967.
Okay, good. You must have prepared something about your city of birth, Patliputra. Tell us about your historical intake
Yes.
about the city. What all have you absorbed as part of historical heritage, being born there?
The city of Patliputra was established by Ajatashatru, and its seat as the capital of power, it was transferred by his son Udain. Also, it served as the seat of power for Mauryas and the Gupta's dynasty. So there are multiple heritage sites in Patna, especially with terms of all the religious sites. So there is a Hindu site, which is Patan Devi temple. It is a Shakti Peeth in Patna. It is also famous for being the birthplace of 10th Sikh Guru, Sri Govind Singh. There is a Gurudwara in Patna, which is among the 5 holiest Gurudwaras in India. So also in the nearby regions, there are holy sites for Buddhism and Jainism as well. And there is a holy church for Christianity in Patna as well. So its heritage is very cosmopolitan, I must say.
Okay. Have you ever been to Kumrar?
Yes, sir.
What all did you see there?
Sir, there is a Agam Kuan in Kumrar, where it is alleged that Ashoka killed his 99 brothers in that well. And also there are remnants of a fort, and a 1,000 pillar hall is there, which are remnants of Maurya's time. So these are some sites that I visited.
All right. And what was the city doing during the British period? What kind of fortune had it hit? Was it at its all-time low, or was it doing reasonably okay?
So before the arrival of British,
Mhm.
Patna city was mainly engaged in trading chalicos and saltpeter and some other textile as well. It was a center of textile.
Okay.
But after
Okay, good
British,
enough. Good enough. Uh, Raj, I also gather that you have done chemical engineering from IIT Guwahati.
yes,
What's this happening? I mean, India as a country at the global level, we commit to certain level of emissions and clean fuel, green fuel, and yet very many times we see shortage of coal and trains being diverted to rush coal to different cities. This degree of extraction of coal and its consumption, and have you ever checked as to whether we are even reducing our fossil fuel consumption? 80% import of crude oil and so forth. So how are we going to meet our commitments? And you being a chemical engineer, give me some technical take on this.
India has taken steps forward in meeting the renewable energy supply because the energy basket of India has increased to around 23% from wind and solar energy. And if all non-fossil fuel resources are concerned, then it raises to something around 36%. So we have come a long way.
36% of what? Total energy consumption?
The total power consumption, including the hydropower and solar, wind, and biomass power.
Okay.
So we have come a long way ahead, but we are still relying hugely on coal-based thermal power plants. And in terms of overall energy, our reliance on crude oil and petroleum and diesel is also substantial, which needs to be reduced. A way forward for our goal can be the adoption of hydrogen fuel, which can act as a locomotive fuel, automotive fuel, and also as battery in our vehicles. So hydrogen fuel has.
How are we placed in terms of lithium and semiconductors? We are told that there is around 6 months gap. If you book a car which is run on batteries, there is a 6 month gap because we don't have the semiconductor supplies, or lithium which is critically used in these batteries are hard to come by. So
Our lithium source is totally import dependent, and we depend on countries like Bolivia, Argentina, and Australia for lithium and other rare earth metals. So, as far as semiconductor is concerned, we rely on China because it is the largest chip manufacturing factory in the world. So, our reliance in these sectors needs to be improved. Government has come out with a national mission on advanced chemistry cell batteries, and also a production linked incentive scheme for chip manufacturing and semiconductor industries. So there are
do you think it is a good replacement of strategy from 80% reliance for fossil fuel to this kind of battery generated power? Again, dependence happens to be almost total on imports, I mean.
said the fossil fuels and the crude oil fuels, they cannot be termed as the fuel of the future. They need to be phased down. So our focus must shift away from those fossil fuels towards the renewables and electric batteries. As far as dependence is concerned, sir, we are still at an infancy stage in these sectors, and with the ongoing schemes and initiatives, India can earn its self-sufficiency. Currently, also there are startups working in the field of lithium-ion batteries, and there is one startup which sources the lithium from the e-waste that is being generated in India. So it is relying 100% on the e-waste generated in India for manufacturing lithium-ion batteries. So many such new startups will come, and eventually India can become a world leader, especially in these new age technologies, because we have the human resource and the brains that can develop it.
This optimism is also futuristic, it means, I mean,
So at present, also there are baby steps being taken.
okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Raj Krishna, a bit light. You see, what is this break dance?
So
What is break in the break dance?
the break dancing is a street dance that evolved in 1970s.
No, I don't want a lecture. You see, very pointed answers.
Yes, sir.
No lectures, please. Understand? So in break dancing, what is break?
So while doing break dancing, the performer suddenly freezes in specific poses.
I see.
So that can be one aspect why it is called break dancing.
Any other aspect is there?
Yes, sir. So there are certain moves in which the performer tends to show that his body is broken into different parts.
Oh, I
That can be
see.
isolated movements of his body. So that's why also it is called break dancing.
That did you visit nearby places in Guwahati around?
So I visited Kaziranga National Park and some places in Meghalaya,
Which
especially.
place you saw in Meghalaya?
Sir, the Umngot Lake, which is Umngot Lake.
Okay.
So it is the transparent lake, and the boat seems like it is floating on air. The water is so
How
transparent.
did you go there? Which route you took?
Sir, we went via car in a group trip.
What did you see on the way?
Sir, we saw a lot of forests and
No, any city, any town, any village, nameplates are there. No?
yes, sir.
On the way, you find nameplates all over.
Yes, sir.
Maybe even in bilingual.
Yes, sir.
So, any important place on the way to that lake?
Sir, we crossed Shillong while visiting that lake, but the other small places, sir, I don't recall right now.
Okay. Anything worth remembering for Shillong?
So there was a cherry blossom festival going on in Shillong at that time. So it was it has a very beautiful atmosphere and colorful people as well.
Okay. But tell me, why Bihar is not getting up for the industrialization? Industrialization is still poor in Bihar.
Yes, sir.
Social indicators you indicated, they may be better than Jharkhand, but industrialization is still lacking. What are the impediments?
Sir, after bifurcation, most of the mineral resources of the region were transferred to Jharkhand, and so the different industries and corporates, they also shifted to Jharkhand. So Bihar had to start afresh, but that fresh start has been delayed until now.
I only want to know impediments. I don't want to go history.
Yes, sir.
Only impediments.
So mainly because still after revocation of freight equalization policy, there is no incentives for industries to get placed in Bihar, despite being rich in resources.
Okay.
Because the prices are virtually same still all over India. And secondly, sir, the lack of mineral resources shows that there is opportunity for food processing sector in Bihar. But those sectors are still underdeveloped in India. And most of the food processing units, they are being developed in Punjab or Haryana. And
Why not in Bihar?
because the average land holding size in Bihar is only 0.46 hectare, and industries don't want to deal with the individual farmers at such level.
What about dairy industry?
So in dairy, there is a company named Sudha in Bihar, which is famous locally, but it does not have a pan-India or national presence right now. So it is weak in competition.
So two areas you pointed out. One is food processing industry,
Yes, sir.
and one dairy. Any other thing which could have been done in Bihar?
So the opportunities in Bihar are limitless.
There
Especially,
used to be a leather industry, but no more.
yes, sir. So also in terms of resources, it is rich in mica and bauxite. So that can be developed, especially in the Kaimur and Rohtas region. Sir, also IT sector can be developed in Bihar. A new science city is developing. So semiconductors and other new age technologies, their centers of excellence can also be developed in Bihar.
Tell me, this left wing extremism, what is the mainstay of LWE? I mean, what do they want? What exactly they want, which if we sit across the table and talk to them and sort out the issues?
So left-wing extremists, their main demand is overthrow of the government and setting up their own form of government, which is community-based and takes care of their community. But in recent times, sir, there
Do they say so?
Sir-
Do they profess this to their cadres and to the villagers that our objective is to overthrow this government?
yes, sir.
Okay.
But sir, in recent times,
But it will not appeal to the villagers. To villagers, something else may be appealing.
sir, to villagers, they are showing the downsides of development and showing the government as land grabber and inciting them to act against the government. And also, sir, they are giving remunerations to the villagers. So the villagers feel some kind of security of economic sense from the left-wing extremists. But in recent times, their focus has shifted from being ideology-based to being extortion-based. And currently, many left-wing extremists, they emerge whenever a development activity occurs to charge extortion money. And currently, sir, the overall engagement of LWE is not centralized or institutional, rather it is in ad hoc sense. So that is why sitting across a table has become difficult.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Raj Kishan,
So,
you said you have no experience,
no work experience. Sorry.
no work experience. So tell me, in what way you will contribute to civil services? What will you bring to civil services that you should be selected?
Sir, if I become a part of the civil service, I will bring to the table the perseverance and objectivity that I have, and also the pursuit for excellence by incorporating innovations in the governance and executing the ongoing schemes in an empathetic and compassionate manner. So these are some qualities that I will bring to the tables.
Okay, and what about leadership?
Sir, definitely leadership is also present, and only an empathetic person can become a good leader.
Okay. Okay, Raj Kishan, I saw your DAP. You did some work in carbon dioxide capture
Yes.
from fuel gas.
Yes, sir.
Methane is a bigger problem these days, and especially industrial methane. So, what can be done to capture release of methane by industries, which is crossing all the proportions? So, tell me problem about methane and how to solve it.
So the global warming potential of methane is 12 times more than carbon dioxide, and its emissions also has increased in recent times because of anteric fermentations from the cattles and agriculture as well as industries. So it poses a new problem. So for methane storage or methane capture, different technologies can be used, but the main important technology can be steam methane reformation, which can convert the methane into hydrogen, and that hydrogen can be used as clean fuel in different sectors. Sir, also the methane, if captured, it can be used for exploring the oil in more efficient manner. So that can be other use of methane.
Okay, very good. Uh, there is some mention that you also devised something to test the drunken drivers.
Yes, sir.
Now, in COVID era, when nobody was checking the drivers, how do we ensure that such kind of check is exercised without actually compromising on SOP of COVID?
So in the hackathon, we actually built a system which can be incorporated in the vehicle itself. And as soon as the driver enters, because of the proximity of the sensor, it can detect the alcohol presence in his breath, and it can send an alarm to his friends or that this person is located in this place and he needs it. So such integration of alcohol detection in the vehicle itself can be a way forward and must be integrated, keeping in mind the rising number of road accidents in country.
Very good. That have you recommended this to anybody? This solution?
Sir, the only problem with this solution is the accuracy of sensors right now. So that needs to be enhanced, and it requires a bit of research and development in exploring the sensor.
Okay. Recently, India launched something called Gagan.
Yes.
So tell me about Gagan. What is the full form of Gagan, and how is it going to transform aviation industry in India?
Sir, I'm not aware about this right now, sir. I don't know the exact
Okay,
details.
okay, you can. And yesterday again, Russia celebrated Victory Day.
Yes, sir.
So can you trace Victory Day to World War II times? Why Victory Day?
So on 8th May, the Nazi Germany, it surrendered to Russia, and that is why Russia celebrates it as the Victory Day every year.
World War II also gave rise to some UN Charter on chemical warfare. So are you aware what UN Charter on chemical warfare is?
So I'm aware about the Chemical Weapon Convention
Okay,
that is in
Chemical
place.
Weapons Convention. Tell me about that.
So the convention bans the production, use, stockpiling, manufacturing, and storage of any and all types of chemical weapons. It also has an enforcement mechanism which is done by the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And recently it has gained powers to put accountability or put responsibility of the chemical attack on the perpetrators. So it is a very good convention for the world.
Okay, government disinvestment policy. What are your views on this, and why should government disinvest from the profit-making public sectors?
So the disinvestment targets of the government has been in the increasing side recently. It was around 1.75 lakh crore in 2018-19, and last year also it was around 80,000 crore. So the disinvestment in increasing because the government requires funds for its ongoing social welfare schemes, and also to curb the fiscal deficit that may hinder India's security profile. Sir, also the disinvestment is required because after 2001, when some public sector undertakings were disinvested, they are showing good performance as of now, and they have upscaled their market capitalization and profits. So the government feels that disinvesting these PSUs can turn them profitable, and it will be more beneficial for the country in terms of job creation and also capacity building. But universal disinvestment policy should not be followed because these public sector undertakings are strategic assets of the government, and that they are giving the disinvestment proceeds right now, but the dividend will be lost to the government in the long term, especially from the profit making PSUs. So rather than disinvestment, a wholesome investment policy should be followed by the government, like it is done by the Singapore Investment Corporation and in China as well. So in that way, government should focus on investing its wealth and generating more profits, because the market is booming right now, and all the sovereign nations, they are creating their investment funds, which is generating huge amount of wealth for them. So that should be the policy.
Thank you. So, Raj, tell me, National Fertility Health Survey fifth report has been released, and can you just very briefly tell what are the highlights in terms of fertility rate of the country?
That the fertility rate of India, especially the total fertility rate, has come below the replacement level from 2.1 to 2.0.
Okay. Now, my question is that Assam has, you have spent some time in Guwahati. Assam had some time ago released a population policy putting some disincentives. Incidentally, Assam's overall fertility rate is also no longer very high. Are you aware how much is it?
So it is between 2 and 3.
All right. It is not something alarming. So do you think in the light of this report which has been released, and things have come down below the replacement level, should Assam government withdraw its population policy wherein the disincentives were given to the people at large?
The Assam government implemented a policy where only people with 2 children can be eligible for the government jobs and in local elections as well. So even if the fertility rate of India was above 2.1, then also the policy creates a inequality between people, which is not favorable for proper democracy. It creates a distinction between those who have more than 2 children, as they cannot contest elections and they can also not be eligible for government jobs. So rather than enforcing such imposing mechanisms, Assam government should come out with awareness generation, as that has worked in whole of India as well, and also economic empowerment of the people. So it is said that economic empowerment is the best contraceptive. Any imposing mechanism were dealt away with in the 1995 convention. So that should be the way forward.
So, Raj, the last question would be from any topic which you think has not been covered by us.
The education sector, I think
Education sector.
that can be discussed. All right.
Now, tell me, the Common University Entrance Test, right, has been brought in consonance with the education policy. But there are many states who have rejected it, Tamil Nadu being one of them. Private universities are not following. Stephens College have come out with their own concept. Now, there must be some demerits in the CUET along with merits. Can you recall some of the demerits?
So the CUET will be a common entrance test to all the central universities in India. Some demerits of this new test. First can be the different students are in different state boards, and the exam will be based on the NCERT based syllabus. So that creates a disincentive for the state board students, as they will have to study new things and new materials. So that is one thing why different states are also revolting. And apart from this, there is a huge probability that coaching industries and the cutthroat competition will re-emerge among the students. So that will put extra mental pressure on the students. So also it can lead to neglect of the overall school curriculum because students will get admission into dummy schools and focus on the coaching for CUET. So that is also a not very positive future looking option for the students.
Thank you, Raj.